Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here today for a momentous occasion, another great announcement that's occurring here in St. Clair County. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce Ken Sharkey, who is the head of St. Clair County Transit. Joining him today are the members of the St. Clair County Transit who, of course, operate a lot of what's in this building. Lonnie Mosley, Herb Simmons, Tony Perrin, George Markowitz are here today. And we also have the Illinois commissioners that represent us on the Bi-State Development Agency here, Terry Beach, Irma Galladay, Herb Simmons, and Deborah Moore. So without further ado, about 4 years ago, we met the gentleman behind us who at that point was running for governor. And in talking, there were two really important parts of his platform. One was infrastructure, and two was fiscal responsibility. He made a great point that unless he got his own house in order, it would not be possible to be able to help us with great projects like the one that we're here to announce today. So I give great credit to a governor who is around, who comes here, who knows us, knows our needs, and understands the importance of public safety on our transportation system. This project today that's going to be announced will work wonders in providing security for those who are riding on our Metrolink, and also provide dispatching services for all of the western part and entire part of St. Clair County. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's great to see everybody this morning, and great to be back here in Metro East, and especially here in St. Clair County under Chairman Kern's leadership. From encouraging vaccinations to bringing new funding for higher education to rebuilding our infrastructure, it is a real pleasure to join you in celebrating progress in Metro East. Mayor Eastern, thank you for welcoming all of us here to East St. Louis. Your leadership is much appreciated in these difficult times. To Leader LaToya Greenwood, Leader Jay Hoffman, Senator Chris Belt, and Senator Dale Fowler, thank you all for your partnership in the state capitol and making this moment today possible. When the General Assembly and I crafted the most robust infrastructure plan in Illinois history, our vision wasn't limited to simply updating highways, rail, and bridges. We saw an opportunity to connect jobs and economic development to communities across the state through every mode of transportation. And that's what brings us here today to Metro East, the largest single recipient of Rebuild Illinois ports and transit funding outside of the Chicago region. Starting right here in St. Clair County, we're launching funding to support Illinois' ports, a critical hub for our national infrastructure and shipping logistics, as well as our 36 transit systems outside of Chicago. All in all, today we're announcing $110 million for 9 port districts, as well as $112 million for 37 transit districts, totaling nearly $250 million going out to projects around the state today. Projects like $9.8 million for the Emerson Park Operational Control Center project, which upon completion will house St. Clair County Sheriff's deputies, the Transit Control Center, 911 Dispatch Center, and provide space for Chestnut Health's mental health on transit pilot. Projects like $21 million for America's Central Port, a few miles to our north in Granite City, which sits at the heart of our nation's transportation network and serves as an economic engine of this entire region. Projects like the $6 million headed to Collinsville Park and Park and Ride, and the Madison County Transit Operations Center. That's a building that will require $15 million from our Rebuild Illinois investments in this hub in 2020 we delivered that, and today 6 million more. And let's not forget, separate from today's funding totals, the $96 million already supporting St. Clair's Metrolink extension to the Mid-America St. Louis Airport. None of this progress would be possible without the highly skilled men and women of organized labor. With these funds, workers across the state are rebuilding mass transit systems in Rockford, in Quincy, in Carbondale, Springfield, Peoria, Decatur, Urbana-Champaign, and Bloomington-Normal. And there are even more jobs and more opportunities to be found at the ports in Waukegan, Quincy, Ottawa, and of course, Chicago. When all is said and done, Rebuild Illinois will have funded over $600 million worth of expansions, enhancements, and renovations of public ports, and transit systems, of course, outside of Chicago. Each of these projects is about doing what government is supposed to do, investing in the people that we serve. Up and down Metro East, we're restoring and rebuilding, creating jobs, and making sure that working families have the opportunities and resources they need to build better lives for themselves and for their families. And I can promise you this, we'll be back with more. So I want to thank you all for joining us today, and with that, I'm very pleased to introduce our illustrious Transportation Secretary, Omer Osman. Omer?
Thank you. Thank you, Governor. Good morning, everyone. And as always, it is just an honor to visit one of the premier transportation systems in one of the great communities in Illinois, here in East St. Louis. Thank you to our host with the St. Clair County. Ken, thank you for hosting us here today, and their representatives who helped coordinate this event. I would like to acknowledge IDOT Division of Transit Deputy Director Sean Reese, who is here in the crowd somewhere, who is here today with us, and her dedicated and experienced member of our team. I would also like to extend my gratitude to BJ Marie and Sean Cullen from our Office of Planning and Programming for their hard work in making this day possible. Since I was appointed secretary almost 3 years ago today, I have had the privilege of going to events like this to celebrate the world-class transportation system we enjoy here in Illinois. I'm especially happy today because we are spotlighting our ports and transit systems, two pillars of the multimodal transportation system that separates Illinois from other states. In Illinois, some form of transit is available in 96 of our 102 counties, connecting people to jobs, schools, and other vital services. It is part of a fabric of a healthy, vibrant community and region. Our ports and waterways, likewise, offer a gateway between your region and the global marketplace. Illinois moves 1.2 billion tons of goods via road, rail, air, and water each year. Nearly 9% of those tons, which equates to about 108 million, were moved on water at a value of, guess what, $31 billion. In Illinois, we'd like to brag about how our multimodal system of transportation gives us a competitive edge and advantage. Under this governor, Governor Pritzker, and with the support of the General Assembly, we are putting action behind that talk. Today, the governor is announcing 51 transit projects across the state, an investment made possible via almost $112 million from Rebuild Illinois. All told, Rebuild Illinois is providing more than $4.5 billion to improving transit services throughout Illinois. The most is spent on transit in any state capital program since 1968. For our ports, a total of 12 projects are receiving $108.3 million, including operational investment in Granite City, expansion of a Mid-America intermodal port in Quincy, and a key redevelopment in Chicago, a true public-private partnership to build the New River Terminal in Shawneetown, and many, many other projects. Every one of these projects on both the ports and transit sites were selected through a competitive grant process at IDOT. That means we went looking for ideas from our partners at the local level on how to best improve their facilities and the services they provide. Under this governor, IDOT is relying more than ever on input from our communities to tell us where the public resources should be invested. It is a smart way to do business. We are not only turning around projects and putting people to work more quickly, but we are creating opportunities for long-term job growth. As far as I'm concerned, there is no such a thing as highway system, a transit system, a waterways system, an aviation system, and so on. We are all part of an interconnected system of transportation that is only as good as its individual parts. These awards the governor is announcing in many instances are being used in conjunction with federal and local dollars to maximize their value and address long-term capital needs. Combining resources at the federal, state, and local levels to tackle large projects is something we are striving to do more and more of at IDOT. But bottom line, thanks to this governor and the vision of our partners in the General Assembly, we are making infrastructure investment that will keep Illinois the country's transportation hub for future generations. These projects we are celebrating today are going to make a big difference for this region for a long, long time. And as I always say, I'll ask everybody to please pardon our dust while we rebuild Illinois. Thank you for having me, and with that, I have the pleasure of introducing one of the infrastructure champions, Senator Chris Belt. Senator.
Good morning. You know, when I got here, I shared with some colleagues that years and years ago, my dad was a subcontractor out here when this place was being built. He was an operating engineer. He's retired 520. I had two brothers, 520, so they were out here, and I had a brother who was local 100 who was out here. So I had never been in here, so this is cool to come in and see the fruit of their labor as well. So that being said, Governor Pritzker, I thank you for inviting me here today to, as you announced, funding to help downstate transportation, rebuild Illinois, invest in our state's transportation system, creates jobs, and promotes economic growth. I applaud the steps Illinois continues to take to invest in safe and reliable transportation. It's essential to put us back on track and help out our local economy recover from the ongoing pandemic, creating more jobs in the Metro East, especially in some of the poorest neighborhoods in Illinois, prioritizes downstate economic growth, and uplifts the residents and communities. Again, I want to thank you, Governor Pritzker, for continuing to prioritize communities that need it the most. And with that being said, it is my honor to bring to the podium Leader LaToya Greenwood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Pritzker, Mayor Eastern, and of course my colleagues in government. It is always a great day to welcome all of you to my beloved city of East St. Louis. As we continue to change the narrative of this community and communities like it around the state. Communities who have been overlooked and underinvested in for decades. The Rebuild Illinois Capital Program invests in our community, and this plan and funding will bring much needed improvement in our infrastructure and allow for significant economic growth. I am excited to continue to partner with all of you in lifting up our community. Through consistent investment here, we will lift up the entire Metro East area. Thank you, and it is my honor to bring back to the podium our Governor, J.B. Pritzker.
Thank you, Representative. Happy to take any questions from members of the media. Yes, hi.
We're talking about labor. Obviously, the workers at Amazon might not have been unionized, but they are still waiting for questions on what can be done to make the workplace safer. And you promised an investigation or some sort of, looking into what happened and how things can be improved there. But we haven't heard anything about what's being done to help them. So what are you doing? What are the local leaders doing to help them?
Thank you. So two things. First is the Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Labor, as well as the Illinois Department of Labor, have been looking at all facets of what happened, what the dangers were that were inherent perhaps in the way the building may have been built, and drawing some conclusions that I think will be helpful for us. What I have said is, and Representative Katie Stewart was there with me as we talked about this publicly, is in the General Assembly, we should be looking at whether we should be creating statewide standards. We don't have that now. They're really done on a county by county or a municipality basis. And the question is, with all of the warehouses that are being built or have been built, should we be setting a state standard for that? That's something that no doubt will be explored during this session of the General Assembly. Say again, I'm sorry, about...
What is the parameters there? What's going in? What kinds of improvements, specifics that are going to be made? Because I know that the rivers can be a powerful tool in transportation.
Yes.
And my understanding is all of the down Mississippi, there has been a lack of investment for many, many decades.
Well, I'd like to ask our Department of Transportation Secretary, if you don't mind, who has a little more experience with, specifically with rivers than I do.
Good question. There is a variety of improvement we're doing at the port. Those particular ports that are getting the grants, without looking at a list, and we're going to hand out a list pretty soon, is I could almost recall the Kaskaskia port is get a rail loop that is going to for the movement of the port. We talked about Granite City. They have about 3 projects that are much, much needed. There's a new terminal in Shawneetown, way out there at the Ohio River. There's quite the improvement we're doing at the Chicago International port up there in Chicago, some of the older buildings that haven't been tended to for decades. There is a terminal that is in sour need of repair. So there's a lot of terminal repair, terminal extension, inside movement for rail within those port facilities is what we're doing. But the specifics are going to be lined out on the 12 projects or so that we're going to hand out shortly. Thank you.
There's a federal government endeavor to examine all of what occurred at the Amazon facility, and so that's what I was referring to. The OSHA investigation, sorry, yeah.
They're not going to be looking into the codes and maybe whether the codes are followed, but not whether they should be changed.
Right. Well, but that's part of the question, right? Were the codes followed? If the codes are good enough, if they were not followed, then the question is, do changes need to be made to the standard or not? And so that's all part of what we'll examine, and the General Assembly specifically will be probably holding hearings to discuss that, and I know there will be legislation.
So, if it's discovered that the codes were followed, that everything was, up to code, but it still happened, would you believe that there should be a code change? Would that scare off Amazon? Are you concerned about the loss of an economic opportunity there?
Look, the safety of our workers is paramount, so let's start with that as a principle. No doubt in the conversation about legislation, things have to be weighed, like what's the cost of doing certain things? What was the power of that tornado coming through that facility relative to what's happened in other facilities? How likely is it that that would reoccur in some other location, or perhaps, God forbid, in the same location? And so all of that has to be weighed in. I have said for years that with climate change, we have seen so many of these disasters increasing in numbers in shortened periods of time. And so I think that has to be taken into account. It's one of the reasons why we should be examining our building codes.
Let's go over here.
Yes, hi.
Jobs will these infrastructure projects? How can you convince the people of the Metro East that she's optimistic about it? I've been here for a few months now, and they're just not optimistic about revitalizing the area. How can you do something to revitalize the area?
Well, revitalizing an area and creating jobs means that you got to start with investments. I mean, you just can't do it out of nowhere. That's why Rebuild Illinois has a real focus on investing in areas that have been left out and left behind. This certainly is one of those areas. I've had many conversations with local leaders, including the mayor, including the county chairman, about what it is that we need to invest in order to create jobs in Metro East broadly, and then in communities, I think you're suggesting, where for many years people just overlooked those communities. So I think our administration, and during the last 3 years, we've made many, many investments that are the foundations of building a base for job growth, for economic growth in this area. I want to do even more, but putting hundreds of millions of dollars to work, not just in infrastructure, but in many other ways, in this area is the beginning of lifting up the entire community. I don't know that I have an estimate of the jobs. Do you, Mr. Secretary? Go ahead.
Rebuild Illinois in total, we have an estimate of 540,000 jobs created
Across the state.
across the state.
Yeah, but I also want to emphasize that much of what we're trying to do is make sure that those jobs, construction jobs, and the ongoing jobs that get created, are created specifically with the thought in mind that there are so many people in Black and brown communities and communities that have been underinvested in that will benefit from this particular massive infrastructure investment. Yeah.
Whether it's correct or not, there's a perception that Metrolink, that our light rail system, has a lot of crime on it. And, we have these pictures back here of the new public safety building, and I'm not sure, maybe someone else would be better to address it, but is crime a problem on Metrolink now? What does it look like? And how are these investments going to help address that?
Mr. Chairman?
So crime is an issue that we deal with every day. This facility answers a lot of the questions that the public has had about safety on Metro. So in this building, 24 hours a day, 8 dispatchers will be housed. They'll not only dispatch a part of St. Clair County, but also they'll be monitoring cameras. They'll be able to dispatch Metro personnel should there be problems on the Metro route. That's why it's located on the route, because the fiber that connects us everywhere from soon-to-be Mid-America Airport all the way out to St. Louis County and to Lambert Field, we're all connected at this site by fiber. So quick communications, that's one of the big weaknesses that we've had on Metro that we're solving with this facility. We've got a governor who listened to our needs, and certainly if we talk about economic development, you know, Metro isn't just for people going to a baseball game or out for a night. There are people who rely on this transportation, everything in this building, everything that's on those rails outside every day to get to work, to be able to provide for their families, and we want to be able to make that provision for them in a safe manner. This building helps us to do that.
Governor, there's a subject matter here and I'm writing concerning DCFS's ongoing financial and operational issues. I'm wondering if you've spoken with Director Smith since the cases for which he was held in contempt came to light. If you have, what did you say to him? What was that conversation like? And do you take any responsibility for the ongoing case of problems at DCFS?
Well, I first want to express my disappointment in the idea that there still are some cases of people who are in facilities that are not appropriate for the level of care that they need. And I know that Director Smith feels the same. As you know, when I came into office, the massive budget crisis that took place took away many of the resources that DCFS relies upon. Let me just give an example. The beds that people need to stay in when they come into the care of DCFS, those are provided by outside agencies. When you don't pay those outside agencies, as occurred before I became governor, you lose the ability to contract with them because other people contract with them. And so when I came into office, there was an enormous deficit of available care and available beds. And particularly when you get to acute care, these individualized cases where there isn't a family out there that will take this child because they have significant challenges, whether they're mental health challenges, substance use challenges, etc. It takes specialized care. And again, you can't just snap your fingers and create that. Having said that, the agency has, because of the budgets that I've put forward for DCFS and the hiring that they've been doing, and they have hired up since I've become governor, and done massive amounts of training. In fact, the entire staff at DCFS, everybody from top to bottom, has received new training. Many people hadn't been trained in 20 years, and you know, there's so much new that they needed to know and learn. So we've invested in all of that. We've made significant improvements. But whenever I hear about cases like this, you know, my attitude is let's go figure out what's gone wrong in the specific case, but then more broadly, how do we move more quickly to deal with it? What I don't want to do is send kids out of state. And that has happened because you have to have a place for a child. And if you don't have one in the state of Illinois, we've got to find them a place. I don't want that to occur, and so we're making proposals, in fact, this year to make investments that I think will help us to keep those kids in the state and provide more beds.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you. It's just about the lawsuit that was filed in Madison County in regards to the judicial changes to the judiciary there. Law that you signed. What are your thoughts on those changes to the judiciary and what the early needs that push that law on hold?
You know, I don't have much to say about it. It's obviously an ongoing case. You know, I'm surprised at who the litigants were, at least the defendants that were named in the case. As you know, there are many other people other than the Board of Elections and the governor involved in it, and so we'll have to see where it goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor.